All right, guys, today we are going to be going in depth with the Tori Pocket. So the Tori Pocket is a pocket I use in pretty much all bags, whether I've designed it or not. It is a zipper pocket, so you will need one zip and one zipper pull. Now, I never interface my Tori Pocket, mainly because I like the bag's not too heavy. So the more interfacing you put into the bag, the heavier it gets. So this is an 8 by 12 inch rectangle. So that's what size the Tori Pocket is. And then when you fold it in half, you've got this little rectangle here. So it's 1/2 inch from the folded edge. And then it's a 1/2 inch hole because I always use size 5 zipper tape. If you're using a size 3 zipper tape, you want a 3/8 of an inch hole. So it just depends on what you want. But because I always use size 5, I have the size 5 hole. And you'll also need one zipper pull. So I'm just going to put the zipper pull on. And as you can see, I've cut the zip and it's fraying a little bit. So you just want to run your lighter over it. Always try and run it in the blue part of the flame. It's less likely to discolor your zipper. So we're just going to pop this on. One side, other side, line it up. No, that wasn't lined up. And then push it on. And you want to just put it on about 1/3 of the way. You don't want to pull it all the way to the other side, and I'll show you why soon. So I'm doing this on a Lola. So this is Lola by Swoon. And the easiest way for me to line things up is I'm going to fold the lining in half. This one's got interfacing. So I always interface the main panels, just not the zipper pocket. And then I'm going to fold this in half so it's long and skinny. And on the half where I've drawn the rectangle, I'm going to make a little snip here so that I can perfectly line this up in the middle. Right? So we've got a notch there and a notch there. That's not currently level. So I'm just going to position it where I want. And then you can always get, so if you're new to this, you can get a ruler and you can either do it this way and have it up as high as you want, or if you get a bigger ruler, which will probably help, I want to go up a little bit higher because this little bit on this won't exist. So you want to go up a little bit higher. So I'm going to go up 1.5 inches. And then one of the main lines I'm going to put at the center point so that I can line up my panel with the center. Now, because this is cotton, it will probably just sit where I want it to. But if you're using a waterproof canvas, we're going to take 2 Wonder Clips and we're going to put one here at the angle and here at the angle. And now the pocket won't move while we try and get it under the machine. So I need to turn mine on. That will help. Now we're just going to sew the 2 long lines, but do still make sure that you draw the short ones because it shows you where to start and stop. So I'm going to have my threads behind. I'm lifting up my presser foot and I'm going to position my needle right in that corner and put it down. Then we're going to stitch forward and then back. And then we're going to just go all the way along that line. And then when we get to the end, we're going to position and then we're going to backstitch. So now I'm going to put the needle down so it'll pivot. I'm going to pivot it all the way around. Then I'm going to lift the needle up and jump over to the other side. That little bit there is called a jump stitch. It's quicker to do it this way than trim it off. So then we're going to do the same again. We're going to go forward and back to backstitch it in. And then along this side of the line. And then into that corner, backstitch. I only do about 3 or 4 stitches. I try and do 3, but sometimes it gets away from me. Then I'm going to cut off all of these tails and I'm going to cut the jump stitch. Sometimes on the back you'll get 2. That just means you didn't lift the needle all the way up or all the way down when you moved over. So, if you are concerned, flip it over to the back and make sure that your line is straight. If your pocket moved, it's going to go on an angle and you can fix it if you do it now. But once we trim it, there is no saving it. It will either just be crooked or you'll have to cut a new piece. So I'm going to pinch this kind of in half. Doesn't have to be in the center, just anywhere. And take my scissors and just make a little snip that's in the middle of the 2 lines. The snip is so I can get my scissors in. And then I'm going to cut as close to middle as I can eyeball. If you want to, you can get a rotary cutter and ruler and actually rule the line in the middle. And then when we get close to the end, I'm going to make a little triangle. So I eyeball this, but it is approximately 3/4 of an inch. The longer it is, the easier it'll be when we fold it back to catch it. If you do a tiny little triangle that only comes to here, it's more likely to poke through the hole and you won't top stitch it down. So try and make it 3/4 of an inch to a full inch. There's no such thing as too long, really, but there is such thing as too short. So I'm just trimming this triangle, and I'm trying to get really close to the stitches and the end. So I'm going to get close to the end, but without snipping them. So now, if you're using waterproof canvas, you can just finger press this. I'm going to do it with fabric. So we're going to fold up 1/2, and then we're going to press that seam like that. Now you can iron this seam. Ironing is better for cotton. And then I'm going to press this seam down. So you want to move this out of the way. And we're just finger pressing that seam before we push the pocket through the hole. This will help it to sit flatter once we've pushed it through. Now I'm going to take my thumbs and stick it in those corners and push out. And then you should have something like this. And then what we want to do is you want to get right on the edge of that seam and then just press it down. Now, if you don't want to iron, but you do need some extra pushing, these are great. They're like squeegee things. It will just help to create that crease so I don't have to get up and iron. So you can see the difference in the two sides already. So I'm going to push this side down now and then squeegee it flat. Like so. So now we've got this hole, and from the back, you should have this. So the top half will fold over perfectly later. So the top half will technically be bigger. It's not in half perfectly. If you're doing this on vinyl, and I'm going to just show you, even though I don't need to. So let's pretend that you're putting a zipper pocket on the outside, and you're trying to get your vinyl to fold over. The easiest way to do that is to take some 1/2 inch or 12 mil double-sided tape. Find the end is always helpful. And you want to put it just below the stitch line, like this. Now, I obviously don't need to do it, but we're just going to show you. So you put it just under the stitch line. So then when you pull the backing off the tape, I always like to do it towards me. I'm going to go to that edge and I'm going to press at the seam. And what this is going to do is it's going to hold all the vinyl down super flat for you. Now, you don't really get the full effect because this is fabric. But if this was vinyl, that would now be sitting nice and crisp. Whereas if you don't put the tape, you'll have to fight with it a lot more. So this is now our pocket. I'm going to flip it right sides up. I'm going to clear off my mess. And I'm going to grab my zipper. Now, I always like my zippers to close to the left, but you can do it any way you like. I'm going to put the zipper under, and I'm going to make sure that that zipper pull comes out on top of the fabric. It's just easy to deal with. Then I'm going to flip it so that I'm going to start in front of whichever way your zipper's going. So if you've got it the other way, you'd turn it the other way. We're going to put it under, and I'm going to start in front of the zip, and I'm going to make sure that it's even so it's got the even amount of zipper tape showing on each side. Make sure that the zipper pull is back out of the way, and then I'm going to top stitch at about 1/8 of an inch. You can do 1/4 if that's more comfortable for you. So I'm going to stitch, I'm going to back stitch, and then we're just going to stitch around the whole rectangle. So when I get to the corner, I'm going to needle down and pivot. And sometimes you have to manually set that up. And then we're going to go along. And then as we get back to pretty much where you left, like where you started, we're going to take the zip and zip it shut. So now the zipper pull is not distorting the zip. We don't have anywhere where the zip is open so that we can accidentally stitch it incorrectly. And the zipper pull is not going to distort our top stitching. Needle down. And back stitch. And then I'm just going to trim off all of the tails so that they are out of my way. So now I've got a zipper on this side, and this is what it looks like. So if you just grab the panel, you will find that your top piece will fall pretty much perfectly in line with the bottom. And so then I'm going to stitch. Now, depending on where you've put your pocket and how many you've got, you'll either stitch all 3 sides or just the 2 sides. I will be stitching just the 2 because I'll be turning through this pocket for the last little bit. So we're going to stitch, back stitch. Now, this seam allowance is a personal preference. I do anywhere between 1/4 and 1/2. So if you wanted to even that out, you could do 3/8. But it doesn't really matter, the seam allowance here. It's quite forgiving. So we're going to go all the way up, and you want to try and catch those triangles in that seam as well. So you can see here, I've caught the triangles. They're not going to float around anywhere. It's not 100% important because you have top stitched around this side, so the triangles can't poke out. But it's always nice to just catch them and keep them down and out of the way. So that is the Tori Pocket.